Welcome back, everybody. This is your three-man booth. Just myself, Dan Salem, and Phil this week. Bud is on hiatus, golfing with Eli Manning, I believe. Something like that, right?
He's playing in an LPGA Pro-Am tomorrow. So right now he's en route to Atlantic City.
Wait, so that was not a joke? He's playing in a golf tournament?
That was not a joke. That was 100% true.
How does he – I thought that the whole point was that it was a female tournament. So like,
well, it's a pro-am, so the professionals play with amateurs. So, and I mean, it could be.
Oh,
yeah, but I think
so he's going to be teamed up with an LPGA pro. Got it.
Right, and he's going to get his ass kicked, and he probably admits that too, and he'll probably tell us that next week.
So who is he facing against? Because he's an amateur with a pro.
Yeah. He I should have had this queued up because he told me yesterday who they were. He's playing with Paige Sporanic, which I know I've heard of before. Lucy Robson, and Katie Kearney.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, I'm not that familiar. I just you hear about the pro-am.
Anyone who's curious about what Paige Sporanic looks like, that's what Paige Sporanic looks like.
He's a golfer?
Yeah, I said, how are you going to concentrate? He said he has no idea. So
he's going to be really bad. He's going to be so bad.
He's going to give us the rundown next week. I can't wait for that rundown.
That is a dolled up Instagram photo, but she's got a lot to offer that can't easily be hidden by a tight shirt. So
that's 100% true.
Wow.
So it's kind of, I forget how he got set up with it. I don't know if it's someone from where he works. I forget the backstory, but he'll tell us all next week.
Yeah, well, that's fun. Because normally you hear about the pro-ams and it's like celebrities with I guess the celebrities are the amateurs teamed up with a lot of times. So, but
even here in June, when they have the Travelers Championship for my work, the PGA Tour event, there's a celebrity pro-am and then there's a regular pro-am. The pro-am is played somewhere in like Wallingford at some no-name golf course, whereas the celebrity one is played at the TPC of TPC Highlands in Cromwell.
Okay, so they get the nicer course, obviously.
They get the much nicer course, absolutely.
Okay. Well, but Bud's not going to do well, but that's fun. in NFL news, both our teams' training camps opened today, which was kind of a pleasant coincidence. Since only 8
pretty predictably, everybody showed up, which I didn't suspect we were going to have any holdouts. And but you guys were going crazy last week that Bell hasn't played in a year and a half. He didn't show up at voluntary OTAs, where today was mandatory,
right?
And everyone showed up.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't particularly surprising to me that he didn't show up to the other things because he never has in his whole career. So it wasn't bothersome to me, but all you could read today about how rusty he was. I'm not sure what else they were going to say. It's his first practice in over a year and a half. So
I wonder if these voluntary OTAs, when they had them last week, are they going at half speed? Are they going at quarter speed? Are they even in pads? Because, this is mandatory minicamp. I can't imagine this has to be like walkthrough speed.
Yeah, I don't think they're wearing shoulder pads just to give a little bit of the weight to the running, but I don't think. I mean, they're not full pads. I can't imagine that. This feels to me more like a media session. Like the media are allowed to show up and take pictures of the new team as the new season begins, and the players get to meet each other and talk for the first time. I mean, that was the idea. Now with all the voluntary stuff, most of these guys kind of met a couple weeks ago, but the media, I think most of the other sessions were closed to the media, so this was a real open one to the media, which is always interesting.
Yeah, now you'll see, Daniel Jones will throw a ball and maybe it'll get picked off, and all of a sudden the back page will be full of Daniel Jones throws an interception in first practice.
I read the headlines on the ESPN New York this afternoon, and it was predominantly negative like that. Their take was that Jones and Manning had an awful day, and some guy named Alex was the best quarterback for the Giants. I don't know who he is.
Oh, please. I did read an article yesterday that because I think they opened Monday, so it was either this morning. Actually, I read it yesterday that there's a really big gap at the moment between Manning and Daniel Jones, and that's predictable. It's not like they drafted Daniel Jones to start week one. The whole plan was to still play Eli from the beginning. So
right. I mean, you have a rookie quarterback and a 12-year veteran with 2 Super Bowl championships.
Yeah, but the whole point of the article was that there's a big gap between the two. I'm like, well, thank you for telling us something we already knew. But that's what these guys are doing. They're hard up for headlines right now. So
I know they're fishing for stories. They got to write every day now, and it's tough. Right?
I'm sure in the Cleveland papers it was a big day because Beckham actually showed up to Cleveland, camp, and wow, he actually same with Bell in the Jets.
So I think that they think they were required to like write a daily article since the draft, because before that they could do a weekly article. And if you noticed, the first opening paragraph is semi-new information based on a quote, and then the other 75% is just regurgitating stuff they've told us for the last 6 months.
Yeah, and that's what you get at this in June, of the season.
Did you know?
There's nothing going on.
Did you know that Le'Veon Bell missed last season, and this is his first practice in 17 months?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I did read about his training regime in Florida, which I did find particularly interesting. The guy had his trainer, like, I mean, it's a whole program, which is really cool, but he worked with a bunch of other well-known running backs, like Matt Forte came to mind, and a couple others. And I always find the training interesting because we went through the most basic of football training, obviously, but it felt pretty grueling. And these are like 7-day a week, 5 hours a day programs. So it's pretty.
Well, to us as high school kids, it was grueling because we weren't used to that all year. And then it's like, all right, put the pads on in June when it could be 100 degrees, do 2-a-days, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Yeah. Well, and like, I love running now. I didn't like it then. And so I never did any beforehand. And then it was even worse. So,
do I look like I ever enjoyed running?
No, I mean, I do now. I wish, like, you have hindsight as you get older. If I had actually liked to run then, I probably would have showed up to our version of camp in shape every year instead of grossly out of shape.
You may have also been on the track team as well, if that's the case.
I participated in track and field.
Oh, did you?
I did. The air quotes were necessary. That was about the extent.
Yeah, you were there, just like Bud participated in Pop Warner football, and he tells you that story all the time. He played his mandatory plays, and that was it.
Why? But see, Pop Warner doesn't get you anything in college applications. What was that for?
No, it does not. That is 100% true.
Did he lose a bet? Did his parents make him play?
I'll let him tell you the story. Okay. I won't do it justice.
So these camps, I mean, I guess most of these teams haven't opened yet. I'll just talk about the Jets for a minute. And then I don't know if you want to talk about the Giants, but there's not a ton to say. The coaches are happy. There's like team building going on. Nobody's gotten hurt. That's good.
I said it last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't want to see any article or any headline that starts with the word MCL or ACL. I don't want to see it. Yeah. No news is good news for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, well, I guess the biggest news was that the guy the Tampa Bay let go, the defensive tackle, I'm blanking on his freaking name now, but he picked the Panthers over the Ravens and Browns, which made me very happy that he was going to go to stay in the NFC instead of transfer over to the AFC North, which is like each one of those teams is like one player away from vaulting them up the ranks. Freaking blanking on his name. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I know. I did hear about it. I forget the guy's name too.
Anyways, but that'll do good for the Panthers because that's a tough division, and they're in that year. Like, so they're one other team that have flip-flopped between 10-plus wins to a losing season, 10-plus wins to a losing season. They did it twice. They did 10-plus losing, 10-plus losing. I see your cat. And now, so this is the 10-plus season again. if that's an actual trend for them.
And going into the season, they're easily the third best team in that division behind the Falcons and the Saints. So any moves that they can make, like you said, is only for the positive.
Well, so you put them firmly behind Atlanta?
As we sit today, yes. As we sit today.
Okay.
Because remember, Atlanta played with a ton of injuries on defense last year.
True.
The first 2 weeks they got killed, and they still salvaged a really good season.
Well,
didn't Devonta Freeman get injured too at some point?
Yeah.
So they got hurt last year.
Yeah, and they should bounce back because just like the year after, so one of those years that Panthers made the Super Bowl and then they sucked the next year and then they bounced back to a great season. So Atlanta's in that bounce back year, but New Orleans has been perennially good for 3 or 4 years running now. That division,
it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa could be 9-7 and then end up 5-11 or whatever it is because of the division alone. They're not going to get many wins that division. Now they have a whole new coaching staff, a new defense. It's interesting. We're going to have to get to worst to first and first to worst at some point before the preseason starts, right? one of those teams I could see, like, I don't know. It's hard to see how New Orleans could bottom out, but that division, because it's so competitive, could have a first to worst candidate in it. I don't think it's going to be worse to first, though, with Tampa Bay. It happened.
I mean, really, if you look at it, listen, I'm going to make this comparison, and Bud would roll his eyes. But what are the really huge differences between the Giants presently constructed and the Saints? You have two quarterbacks who are both Super Bowl winning. They're both on the last legs of their career. You both have running backs at this point where with Barkley and Kamara, you can argue which one. Kamara is more of like a little more of a gadget player, but he gets his yards. They have Michael Thomas, all right, so they probably get a check mark there, but they don't have like a.
Well, there's two things that separate those teams for me, and I think that's really the difference in like 4 or 5 wins. The Saints have an extremely aggressive defense that makes plays.
I get to that.
The Giants didn't have the last 2 seasons. Now, I don't know if they'll have it this year, but that was a big difference. The Saints had a really strong secondary presence. Even though it was, quote, their weakness, it still had a presence on the field. The other thing is Drew Brees makes at least 3 or 4 plays a game that makes you go, wow, and kind of pushes his team. Manning hasn't made those plays in several years. So he made them in their Super Bowl runs, but he hasn't made them over the last couple of years. Now, Drew Brees has seriously bounced back. He hit a rut, and then all of a sudden he was great again. I mean, that used to be the red flag for PEDs. It hasn't been recently.
Yeah.
But
right.
I think maybe he honestly, with the diet and conditioning programs, something like that, like what Tom Brady keeps doing and reinventing himself, and you go vegan and you gain all this new energy because, I mean, you're cleansing your body, and that's worked for a lot of players. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know what Brees did, but he did something 3 years ago that truly flipped the script, so to speak, because he's just been on another level. His MVP candidacy separates him from Manning in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're all both on the same level. I'm just saying if you look at them, on paper,
I know
there's a lot of similarities.
You sent the blueprint for the Giants to get to 10 wins this year, and at this point, there's no reason for me to doubt that, because they were losing to all the teams that are better and beating the teams that are at least on par with them. That prediction had them split with Dallas and split with Philly and beat Washington twice. That's not unreasonable.
No, and again, they have games against Tampa, Buffalo, Arizona,
and
Miami.
We don't know if it'll be any good. Yeah.
Right. So it's. Did you see there was an ESPN video the other day, and who is it? It's Sean O'Hare. Sean O'Hare's on there because he's an ex-Giant, and I forget the other guy. It's not maybe Terrell Davis. So I guess a couple weeks ago, Terrell Davis went through the Giants' schedule and said it had him at 4-12. So Sean O'Hare looks at it and changes a few things around, gets him to 10-6. And that was things like the Buffalo game, the Arizona game.
Right.
There's teams, again, we're in June, so a lot of things can happen.
As an informed bystander, but I don't have a rooting interest in the Giants, I would say there were 4 games that really felt 50-50. They should beat Buffalo and they should beat Miami. They might lose one of those, but they should beat them. Mm-hmm. Those in principle are worse football teams with inexperienced quarterbacks. They should beat those 2 teams. I felt like the Jets game was a toss-up because the Jets have a lot of weapons. And I agree. I felt like the Detroit game was a toss-up. I felt like beating Washington twice was a toss-up. I feel like I always like to give teams a full split in their division, but if you give them an extra win, that really pushes them ahead. There was one other game that was a toss-up to me that they had as a victory. I can't remember off the top of my head because Arizona they should beat. They had them losing to Green Bay, Minnesota, and New England. Yep. And so, like, those are fine. I mean, the Giants could steal one of those games, but it wasn't a make or break. So just looking, I mean, it's always the difference. That's why the Vegas line is 8-8 for most teams, because the difference between 6-10 and 10-6 is one injury and a couple of
and a couple of 60-yard field goals like we saw last year.
Yeah.
So
so my brother likes to say, because we write on the NFL all the time, that those things in a given season don't necessarily even out, but over time they do. So, like, I think the Giants had this awful string of injuries for a couple of years running, and then obviously they've had very few the last couple because it evens out over time. Those 60-yard field goals close losses should eventually turn around in the Giants' favor this year.
You would hope so. You would hope so. You have to believe in football karma. And I have nothing better to do, but I have to believe.
I believe in the law of averages. So.
Well, if you want to go really scientific, yeah, that's probably a better explanation.
that's where his stance comes from. That like, ooh, this trend will even out over time. So we'll see what happens. But
you're starting to feel it. Mini camps are opening, or whatever you want to call it, mini camp, training camp, mandatory OTAs, whatever you want to actually use. I mean, you're starting to get the palette for football again in early June. It's going to be August before we know it.
So did you peep pictures of Daniel Jones on the practice field with Barkley? Did you do it? Like I looked at pictures of Le'Veon Bell in a Jets jersey just because like makes me feel happy.
No, so I did see a funny picture. I don't know if it was on Instagram or Daily News or whatever it was, but basically the Giants players were teasing Saquon Barkley because he's wearing his extra large mesh shorts, which on him look like little kid shorts because his thighs are so enormous that it looks like he's wearing little kid shorts. That's the only thing I've seen so far.
Okay. He needs a nickname. He's sorely lacking in the nickname department. I mean, he's got those massive thighs, but it hasn't spawned a really good nickname yet.
Yeah, that's true. No one's given it to him. But you know what? We don't have any of those commentators at the moment that do that. Like the John Gruden's usually good for that, or obviously he's a coach now. But all these commentators that we have now they're not the color commentator that we're used to. So maybe at some point that will show up. I don't know.
I must be proud to be a Yankees fan because they have one of the best color commentators in baseball. I know I watch sports.
I completely agree with that.
The Jets don't have. I mean, I like Phil Simms. He doesn't add a lot of color, but he's fun to listen to. But so he does a lot of Jets games. Otherwise, because the Jets have been bad, they've just dumped their fourth string squads on their games.
Yeah.
Which sometimes does add color. I just don't know who they are, so I couldn't tell you.
So what do you think about? So I heard yesterday that Goodell has started the because listen, the best thing that they can do is start talking about the CBA because it might take a year and a half to figure this thing out. Yeah. I don't think anybody wants a work stoppage. But one of the interesting things he talked about already is reducing the preseason games from I think it's from 4 to 2. I didn't actually hear a number, but
I think he said 4 was too many. He's teasing some major points to the media, which means these are probably things the players are going to get. Well, the other thing was medical marijuana, which I think he's mentioned multiple times. And like the players want it because they're forced to take all these pills, which then they get addicted to when they could take something that probably works better and is natural. I mean, I think there's a huge push, especially since a ton of the states offer it. Now, it'd be interesting for players that live in a state where it's not, where they can't get it, and then they visit a state they can get it. But I have a feeling that'll be in the CBA. I do think they're going to cut the preseason games down. I don't know if they'll cut it all the way down to 2. I have a feeling they'll cut it down to 3. So like.
Yeah, I didn't actually hear a number. I was just guessing.
Yeah, no, but this will be my guess because right now the 4th one is kind of a joke. It's just like a walking practice. So like I think that they'll have probably 1 warm-up game, 1 game where the starters play half, and then 1 game where it's all backups. And I think they'll probably compromise on 3.
I mean. I think you need no less than 2. I think 2 is a good number. 3 would be okay. At least it would be a start.
Yeah, I mean, do you really need any? Because the first month of the season feels like a warm up, but you do at least need 1.
I think you need at least 2 against teams that don't practice with each other on a regular basis. Like there's a lot of teams that go and practice with each other for a week during real mini camps.
Yeah, the Jets,
and that's okay. Yeah, it's not game speed. You need that game speed, and that's. Like you just said, that first month of the season, the first 3 or 4 weeks, some of it's really hard to watch because these guys they're not in game shape yet. So it's really tough to debate on. Should we eliminate it completely?
I don't remember it being like that in September. Now maybe I just ignored it when I was younger, but it's been very obvious over the last 5 years that September football is preseason football.
I think we just didn't. I think we just didn't know any better, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because I mean. The records for teams after a month are pretty much garbage. You can tell, like, the undefeated teams or the 3-1 teams, if they're legit or not. But the teams that are 1-4, I mean, you have no idea sometimes whether you can actually write them off.
Look at the Colts. What were the Colts? 0-5 or 1-5, and they ran off 9 straight or whatever it was.
And how many times did the Dolphins under Adam Gase go 4-0, 5-1, and then suck?
And then come in last. And how many times have the Patriots gone 2-2 or 1-3 and go on to win the Super Bowl? I mean, it's happened.
I'm going to attribute that to the Dolphins and not to the coach because he's our coach now. But he did that numerous times.
Yeah, that first, and we see it every year. The first couple weeks of the season, you see that percentage chart. Oh, if you go 0-2, your percentage to make the playoffs is 50%. Then it drops to 10% if you go 0-3. So again, I think we're at the point where we can almost throw that chart out of throw that chart in the garbage.
Yeah, I'd be curious, because that obviously takes into a large sample size.
Right.
But what if you just did the last 5 years? I wonder what the new numbers are because I agree with you. I think they're kind of foolish.
It's fun for people to talk about, but that's pretty much what it is.
I think the best thing that the first month of the season does is gives fans of teams like the Browns something to be excited about. Now, the Browns might actually be good this year, but in the past, they were so awful. And your team wins a game or you're 2-1 or you're 2-0 and you're on top of the division and it's yeah.
And then you realize you still have 14 more games to play.
Yeah, and your team's actually not very good and you just had a month to prepare for week 1 and won at home and then it doesn't matter after that.
So I heard driving home today that the Browns over-under number, and I don't know if this is Westgate or official, was 9.5. That's a big number, 9.5.
That's interesting. That makes me think there's not enough action on the Browns because that's an easy under for me to take. I feel like I think the Browns have a good chance of winning 8 or 9 games, but their division is too even for me to think that they could win 10 or more. The AFC is too strong too. I still like Houston better. I still like Indianapolis better. I still like Kansas City better. I still like LA better. I still like New England better. And I don't think that they're better than Pittsburgh yet until I see it on the field. So
yeah,
too many teams. I'd grab that under. That's funny. It's risen that high. That they want to swing the action.
Oh, they want. Yeah, they're preying on people's emotions about they got all this talent, so they must translate into wins. And football is the ultimate sport where it's not obviously doesn't come down to one person. It's a complete team game. If that offensive line doesn't block Baker Mayfield, he doesn't have time to give it to Beckham or Landry or what's the tight end's name? I'm drawing a blank. But anyway, they have all these weapons, but if they can't get the ball to them, what good is it?
And so weapons are important, but name value means nothing in football. Honestly,
it depends. It means more than people. It doesn't mean as much as people think it does.
Correct. So you need some Pro Bowlers, but you don't need. Generally, I think the teams with the best player at a position don't win. So there's a difference there. Now Atlanta got close to beating New England a couple of years ago, and Matt Ryan was potentially the best quarterback that season. The last 5 years, it's come down to defense. Whichever team's played the best defense in December and January has won the Super Bowl. So that's why New England keeps winning because they don't have anybody of note on offense. I'm curious now without Gronkowski because Gronkowski is a Hall of Famer. So it's interesting. It's easy to say you got 2 Hall of Famers on offense. You can make do. That's what the Patriots have done. They also have a great offensive line.
So are you convinced that Gronk are you convinced that Gronk is still retired? Because I saw today or yesterday I was at the gym. One of the headlines on First Take was Gronk is officially retired and is enjoying it.
Oh,
Take that for what it's worth.
So it's interesting because a day later the headline came out that the Patriots were probably going to release Safarian-Jenkins.
Yeah.
So that doesn't surprise me. I mean, the Jets let him go. I think he had a good half season or something with them. They were just teasing the waters. I do think Gronkowski's retired. I think he values his health enough to stop playing football. He also has enough other things that he likes to do off the field. He's a big personality. I wouldn't be surprised if he got so I stopped watching Ballers on HBO, but that was a really good show at the time. And it's a football show. I could see him being in that style show going forward. Doesn't require a lot of acting, especially if he's playing a former football player. He's just a fun personality. I could see him on the sidelines this season. He's going to be on TV. He's just people like him. He's got this weird energy. So I'd be shocked if he came back to football.
Hey, Jason Witten's doing it. I'm interested to see how that's going to work out.
I can't for the life of me figure out why. He already had a TV job.
But he wasn't very good at that, so let's not forget that.
Okay. So he wasn't very good at that. So maybe that's why he's trying to recoup his name. But I mean, he's had as much time off as Le'Veon Bell, except he retired. So
and probably wasn't doing. I do believe Bell was doing his own off-season workouts and whatever. Obviously, I don't think Witten was going 2 or 3 days in the gym. He's preparing for his on-screen TV gig. So you don't have the time to commit to that.
So
obviously Dallas needs him so badly.
Yeah.
They probably gave him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Yeah.
And all they're going to do is it's going to be the Edelman treatment. It's going to be the 5-yard pass. Witten's not going out for these long seam routes anymore. He's going to run to the 5 yards and take a left or a right, and the ball's maybe or may not be there.
So the interesting thing is he's a tight end. So can he still block? Like
But he never was a blocking tight end though. He was always the receiving tight end.
But if he's too old to make a lot of receptions, he's got to do something, right? And so I see two things from this signing. It feels to me more like a nice publicity play for the Cowboys, who couldn't add anybody this offseason because they had no money. They're trying to re-sign their 2 stars, but they can't afford them both. So they brought in their only current Hall of Fame candidate, which also maybe he wanted to delay his Hall of Fame an extra. I guess that would be 2 years now. Maybe he wanted to delay his eligibility to roll it into a new cycle so he wasn't directly competing with somebody. There's a couple of things at play there, but
I wonder, does it start over again? If you go and be an active player, does your now time wait 5 years again until you retire?
I mean, I think so. I mean, otherwise he could potentially keep playing until his Hall of Fame induction.
No, but I said right. Oh, that's good point. Because let's say he plays 1 year, he's gonna have to wait till 2024 or 2025 to be inducted.
But I think it resets.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Now, you're right. It's true. He would stop playing and walk right into the Hall of Fame if that was the case for some of these players.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't dislike Dallas, but they're always overrated, and they never. Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I like some of the players they have, but I don't think Jason Garrett's. I think that Jason Garrett was lucky to not to get fired last season because they managed to make the playoffs. I think that he's going to get fired after this year. Witten doesn't make them significantly better. I don't think that they win the division. I think that team needs to get pulled apart. I think Zeke probably. I don't think that they're going to pay him the money. I just that this is like their last go, but Witten kind of saves face from a publicity standpoint. I don't know. I don't see how this works out for the Cowboys.
From your lips to God's ears, right? I hope you're right.
Because Dak Prescott, you've been saying it for months, but he's a good quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback.
He's good.
Yeah.
He's good.
But he doesn't win games by himself. And I think that's the deciding factor in whether you want to shovel a bunch of money at a player is like, does the quarterback actually win you football games? And that's what I pointed to the difference between Manning and Breeze right now is that Manning's perfectly good at managing the game for the Giants, but he doesn't win any games for you. He's not going to like put the team on his shoulder with 3 minutes to go and put up 14 or 21 points. Like it's unlikely to happen, but he's going to protect the lead pretty well as long as I think he can not throw interceptions. So the Jets haven't had a quarterback that really won the football games in years. Fitzpatrick had that one magical season where he kind of was doing it until he became himself. So I don't really know what it's like as a fan, but I've never seen it from Prescott.
Maybe you'll get the opportunity this year. You never know.
Well, Darnold showed flashes last year. That's what got me excited. He showed flashes of taking over the game and actually running the team. And that's why one of my biggest, I don't know how you feel about the Jaguars this year, but one of my biggest intriguing points is Nick Foles because he did that with the Eagles. He did win them games. He took them on their back. Jacksonville was really good 2 years ago. They're another potential flip-flop, worst to first team because they were first 2 years ago. Do you have thoughts on Foles and Jacksonville?
No, I'm with you. It's still a question mark because, we saw Foles do it, but then Foles didn't really play that well last year for the Eagles. I mean, he didn't do what he did last year in the playoffs all year long consistently. Yeah, he started to get hot a little bit towards the end.
Yeah.
But you're right. Jacksonville's problem is they obviously rely way too much on the run game because Leonard Fournette went down and that team just it literally fell apart. It was,
Well,
their defense was the key to a lot of victories 2 years ago, but
they had
Leonard Fournette went down. That was it.
Well, they had two good wide receivers. They let one walk, and then the other got hurt. I think
Allen Robinson went to Chicago.
Yeah, and Hearns got hurt.
Yeah, Chicago.
And so they didn't have anybody left. So that really did hurt them. And then, I mean, Blake Bortles, I mean, he had a career year the season before. Everyone saw that coming. I don't know if you watched the show The Good Place, but one of the lead characters in The Good Place was a super obsessed Jacksonville Jaguars fan and a Blake Bortles fan. And it was a big running gag because they're awful. But then as the show aired, they were really good. So then, and then it's about being in heaven or hell. And, so they played it in really nicely. But that was a fluke. It was an obvious fluke. And they gave him all this money. It was stupid. So I'm intrigued nobody else jumps out to me as major fluke seasons. I mean, Kirk Cousins has a lot to prove, but he didn't seem fluky to me in Washington. Trying to think.
Yeah. I mean, he obviously had a lot more weapons last year in Minnesota with Thielen and Diggs and who's their running back now? I feel like I can't remember who it was now. But anyway, he has a lot more weapons that he had in Washington. And I don't know, do you think he underachieved last year? Or I mean, they went out hot. Thielen was catching 100 yards a game, and then it's just like he hit a wall.
Yeah, well, Diggs was dealing with injuries, and then Thielen got hurt at the end of the season. But it's interesting. I don't think if you actually look at the numbers, I think that Cousins did just as well last year as he's done every other season, which was always just enough to put up good numbers and never more than enough to get his team into something better than pretty good.
A lengthy playoff run, basically, yeah.
Right. So, I guess he's another one. He doesn't lose games for his team, and he can help his team win, but he doesn't take them to that next level. He hasn't taken to that next level.
Now he's arguably in a division that's one of the toughest in the league. With obviously Green Bay is got Aaron Rodgers, and the Bears aren't going away anytime soon.
Well, and then that's the thing. Minnesota needs its defense to push them, and that's what the Bears' defense pushed them last year because Trubisky improved, but let's be real. I mean, he wasn't great. So
yeah, I mean, listen, the Bears got, I'll say, a little lucky with the turnover margin because you can never count on turnovers, and they relied heavily on turnovers last year, which they got. But you got to expect natural regression with that.
Right. So that means if they lose 2 more games this year, that really sets them back. They won't make the playoffs anymore. But
it really is incredible. 1 or 2 wins just either has you a really great season or just a mediocre season. It's great. That's why we love it.
Well, I was personally thrilled that the Jets didn't win any more games last year because it could have saved their coach's job. And they had a couple of at least 3 games, they blew the Green Bay game, but there was at least 2 others where it was super close. And those 3 more wins, close to keeping things.
Well, the Cleveland game right off the bat, the Baker Mayfield game. If Baker Mayfield doesn't come in that game, the Jets are going to win that game, no problem.
They should have still won it even when he came in. They almost
that's true.
Gave into him ooh, let's let him win. So NFL conspiracy theories.
So there's 2 wins right there, right off the bat, right off the top of our heads we can think of.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, and obviously the Giants had plenty bouncing the ball.
It's just the last 2 years have just been an absolute disaster. I tried to salvage it last year and try and put a positive spin, but between injuries and all the crap that went on and off the field, it's just the offensive line was a joke, not anymore because let me tell you something. I read an article about Kevin Zeitler, the guy they got from Cleveland. I mean, this guy is built like a strongman competition, not your typical 350-pound lineman with his belly hanging over his gut. I mean, this guy is rock solid.
Nice. Well, that's what Barkley needs. That's what he needs.
100%. That's exactly what he needs.
Well, I'm hoping the Jets have a above-average offensive line this year. We'll see. I mean, I didn't enter last season with much expectations. I'm not entering this season with too many expectations, except that it should be more fun to watch. I enjoyed watching a rookie quarterback last year who had potential to be our franchise QB and seeing his development. Now, I knew the team was going to be bad. It's hard going into the year knowing your team's going to be bad. I think both of us can enter this season feeling like our teams have a potential to be good.
And that's all you need. You're right. You do not want to go into the season knowing you're going to win. Like Miami. If we were Miami fans, we might as well be waiting until 2020 because we're expecting that to be bad.
I mean, they're not officially tanking, but they're basically tanking. Now they too, but they have Josh Rosen who should win that job, and if he gets better as a sophomore,
there's nothing around him. There's nothing around him at the moment.
I know, and that's Josh Allen's problem in Buffalo too. Like another team that, I mean, they've been waffling. They've always been a little better than they should be the last 2 years, but he couldn't throw the ball last season. There's a lot to look for him there. It's always, I mean, we had so many first-round quarterbacks in 2018, but they're not that. Half of them are going to bust out. So I don't know who.
I don't even. You know what? I think this is going to be one of those rare years where that doesn't happen because Lamar Jackson, and he wasn't even in the top 4 that we were talking about. Lamar Jackson is going to be a starter in Baltimore. Darnold's obviously the starter and going to be the starter in New York. I guess maybe Josh Allen in Buffalo and Rosen. All right. I take my comment back.
Yeah. So my feeling is I'm rooting for Lamar Jackson, but Baltimore had a great defense last year and a very consistent run game. They had like a three-back rotation. I don't know if, I mean, again, he's got to show improvement. He didn't throw the ball particularly well last season either. And so, did the Jets play Baltimore? I'm trying to remember. I think so. It's super interesting because you remember the players that took the next level in their sophomore years and you forget the ones that didn't. And like Trubisky improved, but again, his defense and running game bailed him out. I don't know if Baltimore's team can bail out Jackson this season.
Well, that's why I keep bringing up Kyler Murray because he may be good, but he's gonna get his ass kicked this year between no offensive line and no receivers and bad defense. He's gonna get hurt. He's not gonna get hurt.
No, but
it's gonna be a long year.
Was that a gift for Rosen to get a fresh start with zero expectations?
100%. That was yes. I agree with that.
To a state with zero income tax. So
yeah, Kyler Murray is going to be this year's Josh Rosen. He's in the same situation. The team didn't get any better, and you can argue that the rest of the teams in that division got better. San Francisco, just by getting healthy, got better.
Now, there's the exception. He could have a tremendous rookie year like RG3, but then we know what happened to RG3. So,
yeah.
I mean, everyone's like wanting to try to find the next Carson Wentz, but I'm ready for Carson Wentz to put a full season together. So he's got something to prove for me too. I mean, yes, he's looked very good, but he has not stayed healthy, and that's just as much of a flame out, in my opinion, as if you stay on the field, play out. So it's super interesting. I think that's why I'm always impressed with Tom Brady. I'm impressed with Drew Brees. Even Manning's impressed me because they've had to change and adapt as their careers evolved, but they've done so to like even manage to look better. Like, I don't know how you play better at 40 than you did at 30, but they're doing it.
I think you just play smarter. I don't know if it's better. I think you just play smarter.
Well, I mean, it makes you better if you're being smarter, right?
I mean, as far as you're not flinging the ball 75 yards down the field anymore. Yeah, you're making the smart, and that's what Tom Brady's doing. He's using Edelman as the ultimate safety blanket, and it's turning into great production.
And then again, so each of those teams too have a great coach that have game planned around the quarterback to their strengths, hide the weaknesses, and there's consistency on the coaching staff. So I mean, there's some obvious things that these teams have done right to allow these players to play so long. That's what intrigues me about Ben Roethlisberger, because he had a great season last year. I snatched him in fantasy and couldn't believe how well he did. But I'm just ready. I'm waiting for the wheels to fall off. I don't see that he's done anything to make me believe he's going to keep playing.
Well, they gave him a 2-year extension, so he convinced somebody that he's still able to play.
Yeah. No, I mean, not that he can't play, but he slings it. And at some point, I just feel like he hasn't adapted his game. His game hasn't changed. So he's almost. I mean, I don't know if he's quite as old as the other guys, but
he's right. I mean, they all came in. Manning, Roethlisberger, and Rivers all came in the 2004 draft, so they're all relatively the same age.
Rivers has been slinging it too. I mean, you wonder if these guys are going to hit a wall. At some point.
Yes, we keep saying it's going to happen, but some of these guys are fighting, or at least prolonging it.
Well, because Aaron Rodgers, he he's been dealing with injuries, and I feel like that comes with his age. Like they take longer to recover, and like I don't think he can win his team as many games as he used to, but people still want to stand behind him, and the Packers have not been very good. They've done him no favors. But again, he's got that cachet. It's hard to, you can't pick against him, right? Until you.
It's what we talked about before. It's the name holding a lot more value than maybe it should.
Do you remember when he was a legitimate number one fantasy football pick? Like a serious consideration because he was that much better than the other quarterbacks?
Yeah, that was only like 2 years. It was only 2 years ago.
Right, but there's absolutely no way he'd even be top 10 now. Like, no way.
No. I said I'm looking for. I actually got my my renewal draft board in the mail that I have to send out for. But we started talking about last week. It's going to be running back heavy again. Maybe one or two wide receivers sneak into the first round, but that's it. It's going to be wide receiver heavy again. So I'm sorry, running back heavy again.
I want to take it back. What did you receive in the mail that had to do with fantasy football?
Every year I send out for a draft board, with the stickers, and you put it on. We have a live draft in my house. So
I'm kind of jealous that you get to do that. That's fun.
I send out for this draft. Yeah, I've been doing it for like 10 years. So I actually got it in the mail today and sent out for it because again, we were just saying August is going to be here in 8 weeks.
You have to do a snake draft though, right? You can't. Is there any way you could do an auction draft with your board and live?
Mm-hmm.
It work?
Oh, sure. Yeah, they do both, but we do snake draft.
Okay.
I would love to do auction, but I have two people that are in different states, and it just time zones just aren't going to match up.
Well, but they make it for the live draft.
Well, yeah, I think a snake draft is a little easier to do, and an auction, in my opinion, should be done in person because I just think you need to be there. I know people do in different spots all the time, but I think it would be more fun to have it in the same spot.
So we've never. I mean, I've been playing in the same league probably 10 years. Also, we've never done an in-person draft, so I'm a little jealous. But we've always done an auction draft, and I think.
It could be done.
Well, most years everyone shows up because my brother puts this whole big chart together of times that people are available. And at the beginning, nobody's available. Nobody can agree on a single time. But eventually we get one time where everyone's available.
Yeah. Usually we have 8 out of 10 people here. And depending on various people's schedules, if they can fly in or not, they have done it before.
Okay. So I'm like, I want you to do the auction. I want you to push the auction. It doesn't matter if they're at a different time.
I know. It's a whole different strategy though. It's a different mindset.
Oh, it's completely different, and it changes your keeper strategy as well because of how much you paid for a guy versus how much you keep him at, and he'd be worth in the open market. Like I've kept Zeke Elliott since he was a rookie. I drafted him as a rookie. I think I got him like $20 or $30. He would go for $60.
Yeah,
like, easy. I mean, his average draft is like 50, but because because you have all the people keeping players, it shoots the price up of those that are actually available. So like people want to spend their money, people get spend happy, so then they overpay, and so then I'm like, I would never get him back for even his average draft price. So I have to keep him because he's good enough.
Yeah, next week I'll run down to the basement next week and grab the board because I keep it every year, so I know who keeps it. So I'll show you. It's pretty cool. I like it.
And probably. Maybe not till July, but we'll definitely got to do one show dedicated to fantasy football since we play. So we'll plan it out so that we can actually have one show dedicated to it because not a lot happens in June and July. So we definitely need one show about fantasy. Maybe we do an auction show and a snake show. I mean, we can figure it out.
We can do that.
I mean, I'm familiar with snake drafts. Obviously started there. I have to admit, I started playing fantasy football with pen and paper back in high school. It's been a long time. My dad used to play then, and he liked to print out the sheets and write the numbers in out of the newspaper on Monday mornings. He doesn't like to play anymore now that it's digital.
But it's so much easier. It's real time.
He liked reading in the newspaper and writing things with a pen.
It's a lost art now.
It is. Now I'm like checking the numbers all day Sunday.
Oh, I got two iPads facing me at all times with Red Zone on at the same time. Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be here soon. I can't wait.
It's a true conundrum because I want to give up DirecTV really badly. I want to cut the cord. But currently they still hold the monopoly on NFL Sunday Ticket. I know that's about to change, whenever the contract runs out, but it hasn't changed yet. And so
you have no choice. You have to have it.
You can't watch the Jets without Sunday Ticket. Or I don't know. I tried looking into the pirated options, and it's awful streaming. It's just not good. So yeah, it's a shame because I'm really ready to do it. I know I can get everything I like to watch out elsewhere except for Sunday Ticket.
Yeah, sports is the one thing that is preventing a lot of people from cutting the cord. Like you live in California. You're not getting New York football games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's different for me living in Connecticut where I'm going to get all the New York stuff anyway.
Yeah, you're forced to watch them regardless.
Right.
Well, and it's unfortunate because I get the S Network, but they black out the Yankee games because they're showing on MLB extra innings and vice versa. It's ridiculous. So
I never liked that stupid blackout rule, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole other time.
Yeah. Thankfully, the Yankees are on TV quite often if I actually wanted to tune in. Baseball season's so long, it's kind of hard. I just like to follow along and watch the highlights of the home runs. They hit a lot of them. But I don't have any other thoughts this week. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I'm actually eager to see what Bud shoots this week, and I can't wait for his story on next week.
He's got to have a good story of like. I don't. So he's playing with a woman like that, and he seems to have a problem with ogling pretty ladies. So I'm really curious what happens with what he tells us happened versus what the truth was.
No, I think it'll be truthful because it'll be funnier that way.
Okay. We'll have to force the truth out of him.
I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out tomorrow for him.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised. It'd be lovely to just find him on her Instagram and see something. It'd be embarrassing if it was, but
anyway. But as far as pro football and stuff, I got nothing else for this week.
All right. Are you enjoying the NBA Finals before we cut it off here?
So I'm glad that there won't be a sweep by Toronto.
Right.
And right now, as we stand, I'm rooting for the Warriors to win without Durant coming back because he's not playing tomorrow. He's already been ruled out.
Yeah.
So right now, I want to see the Warriors win the title without Durant. That will boast the Durant to New York rumors that much more.
So that's why you're rooting. So I was like, why else would you root for the Warriors? They've already run like 3 out of 4 or something.
I have a rooting interest in this series because.
Well, I'll be perfectly honest. As soon as he went down, the conspiracy bell went off in my head and said, maybe he's hurt, but for him to not be there makes it easier for him to leave. So,
for the if the Warriors lose, then there might be more of a case for him to stay. If the Warriors win without him, then I think it's more of a case for maybe he leaves. Well, I'm rooting for him leaving.
Well, I think he wants to leave. So if he wants to leave, he has no incentive to be a part of this title run. I mean, he has every incentive to stay on the sideline and let the team be what it is. So it's interesting. But,
as of tomorrow, as of Wednesday, I will be rooting for the Warriors to be up 2-1.
Okay.
And go from there. So
we'll see what happens. It's likely they're going to be at home, but I hope it's a good.
I hope so. We're going to have a couple of NBA free agent shows coming up in the summertime, and
yeah,
that'll be fun.
The MLB had a draft.
I know. I knew about it. You knew about it, but most people didn't know about it.
No, it's silly. Anyways, so we'll definitely do a show next week because we got to get the LPGA story from Bud. Hopefully we'll have some new news to talk about too.
Yeah, maybe something of note will actually happen, and no injuries. That's what we don't want to talk about.
Right.
All right. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. See ya.
Thanks for watching BuzzChomp.
Subscribe and share.
Subscribe and share.
Subscribe and share.
Share.
Woo.